The other day, New York Post tweeted this article: Homer gets canceled, meets Joe Rogan in new Simpsons episode. And naturally, Twitter did its thing. I hate everything about this with all my heart. Just end the show, I'm begging you. Abolish entertainment. So, if you know anything about Twitter, you probably already know that all of these people are actually cluelessly spreading misinformation and are completely missing the point of an actually really good Simpsons episode. Needless to say, there is not a Simpsons episode about Homer meeting Joe Rogan. The New York Post headline is completely misrepresenting the episode. What's the episode actually about? Well, appropriately enough, it's a satire of clickbait articles.
Number 6 will shock you. Well, we'll see about that.
And ill-informed online mobs spreading misleading negative information without context. Sound familiar? And you know what it's not about? Homer meeting Joe Rogan. The scene that this BS clickbait headline is referring to is a quick bit in a montage early on where Homer looks for companionship after having his reputation tarnished. See, if you actually watch the scene, rather than just retweeting New York Post outrage bait, you'd see that Homer literally slams the door in Rogan's face and runs away in horror. And that's it. That's the whole scene. It's 6 seconds long. The Joe Rogan type that Homer encounters doesn't say a single line, and Rogan himself did not guest star or have any involvement in the episode. And yet, because this is the environment that Twitter and much of the online media world cultivate, many otherwise smart people, including journalists, gleefully retweeted this article to dunk on a Simpsons episode they clearly hadn't seen. And it's this exact sort of clickbaity social media environment that this episode is actually satirizing. The episode, cleverly titled, "You Won't Believe What This Episode Is About, Act 3 Will Shock You," features Santa's little helper accidentally locking himself in the car with the windows rolled up, leading Homer to be accused of negligence by an angry crowd of Springfielders, which leads to further public shaming when he attempts to apologize and ends up knocking Reverend Lovejoy out the window. This leads to Homer becoming ostracized and his reputation soiled. It's kind of like a modern version of Season 6's Homer Badman, but given that this takes place in 2022, it goes in a very different direction. You could call it The Simpsons taking on so-called cancel culture, but it actually has a pretty nuanced take on this whole idea.
My reputation is everything to me.
That doesn't jibe with your past behavior.
I'm tired of reputations being about past behavior.
After Homer gets quote-unquote canceled, he joins an institute to help him and other canceled people rehab their image.
We don't take any Halloween mishaps more recent than that, because at a certain point, you should know better.
And when their obviously staged public attempts to do good don't save their reputations, the leader of the institute tells them they only have one hope for redemption.
What if you could delete all that from every computer, every phone, every meme, and even every personal hard drive on Earth?
Well, that's impossible. You'd have to invent something to do that.
To do it, they have to infiltrate the powerful server of a company that feeds clickbait links to the bottoms of online articles. And once Homer eventually makes it to the server room where he could erase all his misdeeds, he learns that in deleting his own unflattering videos, he'd also be erasing every canceled person's transgressions from the internet.
I recognize these people. They're really terrible. That guy raised the price of insulin for fun. I think that guy was just president. And those are his kids.
Yes, Homer, all evidence of their misdeeds will be erased too.
But that's different. Those people did actual bad stuff.
Ultimately, Homer decides that enough terrible people on the internet have rightfully been reprimanded for their misdeeds that he doesn't go through with the plan, despite his own continuing cancellation. So, this episode actually has a pretty clever take on cancel culture, that while maybe people like Homer who accidentally make asses of themselves online don't deserve to be ostracized, there are plenty of crappy people out there who should have their misdeeds laid out for the world to see. But since so many on Twitter didn't actually watch the episode, instead the takeaway for a lot of people was, Homer hung out with Joe Rogan, therefore Simpsons is bad. As annoying as all those Simpsons predicted articles are, this episode definitely could have predicted this ridiculous outcome. It's honestly so perfect. People sharing something that looks bad when taken out of context without the proper information to form an actual informed opinion about it. So why does this sort of thing happen? Well, the initial blame obviously lies with outlets like the New York Post publishing clickbait in the first place. But beyond that, a story like this reaffirms the beliefs of many people online, that The Simpsons is a shadow of its former self, and lots of people on Twitter are very willing to gleefully share information that seems to affirm their already held beliefs, like why people share obviously fake videos about, say, politicians they don't like. So the fact that The Simpsons' 33rd season has actually gotten a lot of critical acclaim is ignored, And even when presented with claims that they're spreading misleading information, they'll often just dig their heels in further rather than admit to any mistakes. This is actually a really smart, well-written episode. In fact, before the episode aired, the buzz surrounding it was the fact that this was the first Simpsons episode to be led entirely by women, from the writer to the director to all the other top creative talent. The same day that the New York Post tweet went viral, the episode's writer, Christine Nangle, tweeted, "My God, I love watching dumb, stupid, wrong dudes get mad at things and make themselves look dumb stupider. I love making things that make those dudes mad." I can't speak for her. I have no idea if she's referring to the many dumb dudes who retweeted this article, but as far as I'm concerned, she might as well be. The gullibility of people online, all too willing to believe and share misleading information and clickbait, had proven her clever satire all too accurate.